Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Top 3 Sales Techniques to Boost Your Close Rates and Increase Your Revenue in 2022 and Beyond, sponsored by ArcSite. I'm PCT Senior Editor Jackie Mitchell, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your schedule to attend today. Today, our speakers will share the latest tips, tricks, and techniques for not only winning more business, but also increasing the efficiency of your sales and inspection process. Our speakers today are Justin Judy and Mike Adams. Justin Judy is Partner Development Manager at ArcSite. He joined ArcSite after a lengthy career in retail management. He loves the company culture and brings his years of leadership and management experience with him to allow him to do his best work. He gets energy from empowering others and helping them reach their goals. When he isn't working, he loves spending time with his wife and 2 children, and you can find them at the lake or enjoying the outdoors. And our other speaker is Mike Adams, who is owner of E3 Termite and Pest Control, and Justin will tell you a little bit more about him later in his presentation. Before I turn things over to them, I have 2 quick notes to pass along. First, a quick disclaimer. The views expressed in presentations made during this virtual event are those of the speakers and not necessarily the PCT Media Group or GIE Media. Presentations during the virtual event or the participation of vendors during the virtual event do not constitute an endorsement of the vendor or speaker's views, products, or services. Next, I want to remind all of our attendees that our webinar is interactive and we encourage everyone to ask their questions throughout. You can do that by typing them into the Q&A interface, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. And we'll hold those questions until the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Justin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie. I appreciate that. Like she just said, we're going to be discussing a lot of things around the sales techniques today to help you guys grow your pest control business, increase revenues and efficiencies. Brought Mike along, who I'll introduce in just a minute, but I'd love to kind of just start out with a quick poll, if you don't mind. I'm real curious to know, like, do you currently create pest diagrams for your business? Whether those be drawings for WDI or WDO forms or for a different reason. We just kind of love to know in here, what you guys like to do, or if you do it at all now. So it's very helpful to me to know that. So if you could quickly answer that poll for me, that would be awesome. And then we'll jump in from there. Awesome. So as you guys answer that, I'm going to move forward with just a couple facts to get us kind of queued up and started today. So first fact, sales is getting harder, whether that be residential sales, home services, and specifically pest control. Competition is easier to find. There's a lot more alternatives out there, and things are just getting trickier to gain the trust of people in the world. So sales has a trust problem. So what do I mean by that? So when people were polled by HubSpot, large company, they did their state of inbound and polled people around how they trust different professions in the industry. They found out that only 61% of people trust firefighters. 57% of people is all trust doctors, 46% trust scientists, and only 5% trust salespeople. So how do you work to overcome that when you walk into a prospective client's home, when you're already kind of have that wall and divide between you? We'll talk a lot about that today and I'll give you guys some tips and tricks to overcome some of that initial hurdle that you're facing when you're first stepping on site. So competition is growing in the profession. There's more competition and alternatives are easier to find. 95% of people nowadays are soliciting more than 1 quote per job. So being professional, standing out, really differentiating yourself competitively to the others is going to become more important. Mike's here today to talk to us a lot about how he has done that and seen a lot of wild success in growing his business. Because there are a finite number of customers in your area. There's not an infinite amount for you guys to work through. You need to make every opportunity count. And when you're on site, you need to make sure you're closing that deal. So there are different ways for you to beat out that competition and grow your business. And like I said, we brought Mike Adams along. He's the owner of E3 Termite and Pest Control. A couple quick tidbits about Mike before I kind of let him introduce himself too. Is he started out 3 years ago with a $7,000 investment and is now worth about $5 million. So a huge difference in company. His sales inspectors are averaging about a 70% close rate, and they're the highest cost provided in their territory. So when Mike personally goes out on a sales call, he averages around a 90% close rate. And like he said, his costs are highest provided. His competitors' ASPs are around $700 to $800 and his are around $3,000. Is that about accurate, Mike?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So he's not doing it by cutting corners and cutting costs. He's doing it by strictly being very strategic, very smart, and winning deals based on quality and value. So we're going to talk to him a little bit, and then we're going to move on to actually analyzing kind of deep down how he does some of that work. So Mike, I just want to kind of start you off by, can you tell us maybe a little bit about your company, how long you've been around, how many employees, that sort of thing, and just a little bit more about E3.
Yeah, thank you. Well, E3's been around. We started July 1st, 2019. And I started it out, believe it or not, with an SUV and a trailer pulling a rig behind me. I can remember back in the day when I pulled up to do a job and everybody was laughing at me, but I just held my head up high and gave them the best service I could give them for the best value. And here I am today with, we now have 12 employees and nobody's laughing at me anymore. And I actually started this industry back when I was 24 years old, and I started out as being the only person that could get under houses. Well, I was hired to get under houses no one else could get under. And so I guess you can say I really started from the ground up and grew from there. And I am from Louisiana, and Louisiana is the hot spot for promoting termites. I worked just about every aspect of the industry. Back then, going to classes, I went to a lot of classes and training, and it was really boring. But it's now paying off because it's helping me, help my customers now. And that's about the bulk of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And kind of queuing off of the slide we're on right now before we move into any more questions would be like, you talk about your team averaging a 70% close rate. For one, that's astronomically high for a team. A 90% close rate for you personally is even crazier. How do you do it? What are some of your secrets that you think are really contributing to that success?
Well, I mean, I learned early on, you got to show the customer that you're not out there to sell them something. You're out there to provide them a service. I talk to my salespeople when I first bring them on for training, and the first thing I ask them is, what are we selling? And of course, everybody comes up with, oh, termite, pest control. They give a whole list, and I say, everybody's wrong. We're not selling anything. We're offering our customers a service that will help protect their house from future termite damage. And therefore, if you go into it thinking that way and kind of catch the customer off guard, I guess, but you go in, you want to find out as much about the customer, show interest in the customer. When you go out to their home, I always try to find something in the home that, bring to an attention to make them feel proud. And got to gain their trust. And you got to gain it pretty pretty quickly. Once I gain their trust, then I make sure I live up to what I promised, above and beyond. I don't know. It's just the main thing is if people show you can tell that you care, then they're going to want to buy from you.
Sure. So after building that trust, like what sort of closing techniques are you using in the home? Are there any specific closing techniques that you find to be more useful or more successful than others?
Well, up until recently, I mean, we were basically what we want to do is we want to build value first. The last thing you want to do is give a price. So you want to kind of just go over details with the customer, the kind of work you're going to be doing, the kind of services you're going to be doing, what kind of warranties you're going to be providing, and try to build up as much as you can so that their price point is up here and you come in the middle. Therefore, they don't have the wow effect, sticker shock, so to say. So the best thing is to build the value before you ask for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And we polled the audience earlier to talk about how many people here, complete digital drawings. Now, you kind of take your drawings to another level than most. How do you use your drawing in the actual sales process?
Well, in order for customers to want, you've got to want what you have. So therefore, in order for them to want what you have to show them why they want your services. So when we do a drawing, we're going to highlight conducive areas to termites around the home. And when you're inspecting a home, it's impossible to tell someone, no, you do not have termites. You can only probably give about a 20% guarantee that they do not have termites. You got to let them understand. Down here, we have a saying that in this area, there are two types of homes. those that have termites and those that are going to get it. So by us showing the customer, we use a drawing showing the customer around their home, conducive conditions. We even find problems that they didn't know they had, and like roof leaks, plumbing leaks, and therefore point that out to them so they can get those things fixed. They appreciate us for saying that, because if it remains a roof leak, it's going to only get worse. Plumbing leaks are going to get worse and things like that. So long story short, we use these drawings to build value, in our services.
Sure, absolutely. So you actually provided us with a couple of your drawings that you have done with real homeowners, customer information redacted, of course. But would you be willing to kind of just walk the audience through maybe what they're seeing on your drawings and kind of how you're using that to effectively close sales?
Sure.
Awesome. So yeah, first drawing you sent is going to be this guy right here. So, I mean, what are we looking at? What are we seeing? What does everything mean? Just kind of give us the overarching view. And a lot of people watching this probably already know just by looking at it, but I'm kind of curious to hear how you're using this to your advantage.
And basically what we're doing here, the most important thing before you start analyzing your pricing and your treatment and everything about a house is knowing what type of structure it is. So as you see in the middle, we put that it is a supported slab. So this home is a supported slab. You have a supported slab, monolithic slabs, floating slabs, and then you have crawl spaces. So we notify them, educate them what a supported slab is. On a supported slab, believe it or not, you have basically a block foundation going around the home, and then they take a brick layer of like around the block that gives about a 2 to 3 inch void between those two areas where termites can come up highly undetected. Termites like darkness, they like moisture, and they like warmth. So that gap right there gives all three. And so it's very important to know when you have a supported slab, how you're going to treat the home. So we point that out to the customer. Hey, the surrounding of your home is just waiting for termites to come in. The next thing we have, we use this for a blueprint for our technicians to know what to do when they go out. Now, this one beforehand just had supported slabs. So our technicians already knew that they're going to have to do what we call horizontal treatment. Horizontal treatment, you drill horizontally in the brick void and then use a full-way tip to put termiticide in the void. So just to give you a breakdown, we do different things like that to show them how they're going to treat the home. You see a red line. We always use red for conducive conditions. Down here, most houses, the drain line for the AC comes out maybe 3 inches and drips on the ground right there by the home. So moisture for termites is like throwing a chocolate cake on a playground. That's just begging them to come up and start going into the home. So we always point this out, recommend for the customer to have that extended at least 2 feet out. Then you're going to see, after our technician went out, you can see I actually took the actual pictures of the bait station, and we placed bait stations around the home. And I kind of thought it was pretty cool that you could take the actual picture and place it on there so if they say, hey, what does the bait station look like? Well, here's a picture. And I can zoom in and show them, a little bit closer view of what it looks like. And like I say, they love to see what they're buying. But to go back to just the way I would use this as a sales tool is I would explain to them that we're going to be doing 4 different treatments on this house. Most companies down here, well, I can say every company down here that I compete with, they only use base stations only. On this house, we're doing a bore care treatment in the attic, a trench and treat around the outside, horizontal treatment, and bait station. Therefore, they understand why they're paying 3 or 4 times more than what the other companies do. And that pretty well covers that drawing.
Yeah, absolutely. So biggest theme I heard there was communication and education, right? So
Right.
I'm a consumer of pest control products personally. Like I'm not a pest control technician, but this to me makes sense. So I'm able to go through, see this drawing, understand what's going to be done, understand maybe why my problems are happening in the first place. Whereas it sounds like, and I'd be willing to wager, even a lot of people on this call probably don't go to that same level of educating the customer around not only what they have, but what they could have and how to prevent it, and really taking the time. How long, Mike, do you spend on an average in-home inspection appointment with a customer? How long would you say you're in a home per appointment?
Well, having the ArcSite drawing has shortened our time probably by, I don't know, probably at least 20, 30 minutes. Doing a paper graph, it would take us about 30, 45 minutes to do a paper graph. My salespeople can do a graph on here in a matter of probably 15 minutes. And they love it. It just, this compared to paper, they love it. Main thing is, I love it because if you're drawing it up and you make a mistake, okay, boom, it's easy to fix. When you're doing it on paper, you got to start all over again. So, long story short, this has shortened our stay. I would say we're probably at a home about an hour and a half doing inspections, sometimes 2 hours, just depending on the location. We've done homes as big as 16,000 square feet and as little as 400 square feet. So, definitely the size of the home is going to make a difference. But the main thing we want to do is, starting out as sales, we want to find as many problems with that home as we can to build value of why they should get their home treated with termites.
Yeah, absolutely. Nope, definitely. And if you're going to try to, if you're going to be successful competing at, a 500% cost increase compared to some of your competitors, you obviously have to be doing something wildly different, and it's working amazing for you. So congrats there. When I first had a conversation with you, kind of just prepping for this webinar a little bit, it was just inspiring to hear all the different stuff that you do and all the care that you take in your processes, which is awesome. So we have a second drawing as well in regards. So this one has a lot more notations on it. A lot of red, which means me to believe, based on your previous explanation, a lot of conducive conditions and things that you want to call out for a client to be able to, potential client, to be able to kind of see what they could possibly be running into here. You have a few minutes to walk us through this one as well?
Yes, I'm glad you asked me. The reason I picked this one is because not only is this drawing a sales tool, it is a legal document. Down here, once we treat a home, and I mean pretty well everywhere else, once you treat a home, you become an insurance company basically, where you're responsible for future damage. So, I mean, in this house here, you can see there's the PhD is possible hidden damage, powder post beetle problems, and all of this that you can put on here, documentation, will help me out in the future in case this customer in 4 years comes up and says, "Oh man, I found termites in the back of my house all throughout the floor when we pull up the carpet." I can go to this drawing and say, Mrs. Jones, you can see on this drawing that we showed you when we first got started, that damage was already there and it was possibly bigger than what we could see. So long story short, we have to cover ourselves legally in the future in case of claims and in case of customers coming out for you for, to do repairs on their home. This one here was a pretty extreme, and I that's why I wanted to pick it, because I mean, my technician, or this was a technician that did this, that we're pretty well covered everything, which is very thorough, which in the future, and the more we can cover, the better I'm protected. So not only is it a sales tool, it's a legal document for the future.
Yeah, and you mentioned in a previous conversation that you use these documents in the re-inspection process as well, on the follow-up and service and that sort of side of the business too. Can you kind of walk us through how changing to digital drawings versus paper has helped you with that process?
Oh, it's been awesome. In the years past, every year you go out to do, you have to have a graph every time you do a renewal inspection. So basically every year we had to go out and draw a graph, which, like I said, 30, 45 minutes to do our graph. Now we can pull this off of ArcSite and edit it. So let's just say that the customer on this case here, let's say the rear of the house, they had repairs done and they no longer have powder post beetle problems. In this case, they're going to get us to treat the powder post beetle. So next year we can go and take off all this powder post beetle evidence, or not just evidence, but the live powder post beetle, because it no longer exists. So basically, instead of us drawing all new graphs, we're just going to edit this graph to coincide with what is happening present day. And as you can see, my technician dated it at the top. So what will happen next year is that technician will take his information off, put his name and the date on there when he went out. And therefore we have a paper trail of when we were there, proof that we were there. And then we also attach it to our software, which timestamps it as well. But the main thing is you're not having to draw a new graph every time you go to a home. You're able to go in here real quick. And I mean, you could take all of this red off in probably less than 10 minutes and start from scratch if you had to. But main thing is you're not having to start from scratch. You're going from already have a template and just go from there. Say when you think about saving 30 to 45 minutes per stop, that is a lot of money. That's a lot of money going out the window. So you know, in a day's time, doing it this way, put some money in my pocket. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your area too, are the drawings required to be submitted to municipality, state, you know, different things like that for any sort of WDI, WDIR, WDO type work?
A drawing is required of every house or every building or everything that we go out on from day one. When we first go out there for a sales call, and matter of fact, every time we go out, if they were to call us out in 3 months and say, hey, I'm seeing something kind of strange, come out and do an inspection, we have to notate the graph each time we go out. So yes, a graph is 100% required by the state to, you know, keep it on record and keep it updated as we go. And that's why it was so aggravated. I mean, good grief, you could have a file folder with 30 graphs in there, and you know, it just ties up. When you have right here, you have one graph that's constantly updated and saved in the computer. And we are now paper free, which is, you know, awesome. So, but it is required by the state, and it's required by the state in a lot of areas from what I understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. We hear that quite a bit too, just working with the different folks that we work with. Now, what sort of advice would you throw to people who maybe are still doing it by hand and kind of experiencing some of those same struggles that you just alluded to with a huge pile of paper or keeping records updated and making us, you're 100% paperless. So that's why I'm asking this. This is an unscripted sort of follow-up. But the piece of the puzzle would really be for me, just kind of curious to hear what advice you would give to people who are still doing things, maybe pen and paper, analog, not digital. What advice would you give them to kind of help them make that transition or jump to doing things digital?
One word, stop. Stop using paper. It would make your life mentally and physically so much nicer not to have paper. Paper to file away, paper to keep up with. I couldn't tell you how many times technicians brought in a graph and it looked like somebody's crumbled it up and put it in a garbage can. I mean, it's just having paper and having to keep up with paper is just a nuisance. This here just made my life so much better because, like I say, when you can go paperless, which I've finally done, I don't know, I think I've added 10 years to my lifespan by doing that. So if you want to live longer, go with this system.
Sure. And there are potential legal ramifications if you were to misplace or lose these sort of things, right? Like when you talk about real estate inspections and things like that. Is that something you guys ever have struggled with or faced, or any advice for people who are going through that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the state can come in at any time and ask to see your records of certain homes. If you do not have the proper record keeping, the proper documents that they ask for, you could be fined, you could be suspended, you could be, I mean, it's an array of what they can do, but yet it is a legal obligation to keep the proper paperwork, or in this case, documents filed away. And like I say, they could come to you at any time if they produce this information. If you go to a file folder and try to go find it to a file folder, it's a nightmare. Go into your computer, tie it to your customer, bring it up and say, boom, here it is. What else you want? It just makes you look better with the state. Therefore, they're not going to bother you as much if you look organized and you're doing things above board. Everything that I do here, from the sales to the service to the bookkeeping, we try to do above what everyone else is doing, and this helps us do that.
Absolutely. No, that's great to hear too. And how did your techs first adjust to it? Like, did they have any sort of a learning curve or struggle with it, or was it something that they picked up on pretty easy? Just purely curious, because I know going digital can be scary to some folks, and they're worried that maybe they have, you know, some old school folks on their team who might not like it. So I'm just kind of curious what your experience was when you first made the transition.
Well, I did have one technician that it was just a mental block. He just would not go away from paper. And I finally found out his problem. His issue was he was drawing with his finger, and he would try to draw like he's drawing on paper, and his palm would hit the iPad, which you use iPads for these, and it would just make a mess. So once I went to him and I said, look, put your iPad on pen mode. You can put your palm or your hand anywhere you want to on there. It's not going to do anything. But you can draw like you're drawing on paper. Therefore, it's just as smooth as paper, if not smoother. He finally came to me the other day, and he was drawing up a graph in the office here, and he said, man, I'm having fun doing this. And I just laughed and laughed because I'm going, it took me 3 months to get him to finally do it, and now he loves it. So you got to find out the simple little things that, it was something that simple, and he could not tell me what it was. And I kind of drag it out of him, but like I say, now he'll draw graphs for other people if they'll let him. So he loves it.
That's cool. That's a great transition because people sometimes are a little spooked by things they don't understand, or if they've been doing the same thing for 30 years, it's real hard to convince them there's a better way. But didn't you say, and you didn't say this to me, but I think you said it to someone else, didn't you say that some of their drawings are so pretty, they're almost fridge worthy?
Yeah.
Almost worthy of hanging up on a fridge? I thought that was a pretty cool thing to hear, because you're just like, man, these drawings are impressive. So, and that's just coming from you guys. I mean, you guys are doing tremendous work out there, and I'm super, super impressed to see it. So, so are there really any closing thoughts before we kind of move through the presentation? We're going to get into the structured tips here in a minute. We actually do have the 3 tips that we talked about. I just want to let Mike really share his thoughts with you guys. Are there any sort of, tips, tricks, nuggets of wisdom, anything else you wanted to share with the group before we kind of move past your specific process into the overarching thoughts? And Mike will be with us the whole time. He's not going anywhere. I just wanted to give him some kind of second to any closing thoughts he wants to share, or anything we haven't covered or touched on yet.
Well, I guess my success in business here is I try to do things different than everyone else. I don't want to compete dollar for dollar with everyone else. I want to be the one that is, that we're considered a premier termite and pest control down here. We have other pest control companies sending business to us because we're, they say, hey, look, if you want it done right, call E3. And it's just, we laugh every time they do that, but that's true. Once they get live termites, people down here will not do anything for it. We're the only company that'll treat homes that have active termite and powder puff beetle. So the main thing I can say is just stand out in the crowd. Don't follow everyone else. Be creative and try to do something different than what everybody else is doing. That's how I got to where I am today.
Absolutely. Yeah. The road less traveled, right? Often leads to some of the most beautiful destinations. So, and the questions that I do see the questions popping in, just so you guys know, they're not going nowhere. We're going to queue up some time at the end for Q&A, just to kind of keep everything structured and gather it. That way we can hit all those sort of similar questions in one swoop. So we're going to save, the 5-10 minutes at the end of the presentation today to just talk candidly about the questions that are in the chat. So feel free to submit questions at any time. Submit as many as you guys want, use this opportunity as a way to get the answers you're looking for, both from myself or from Mike. And we'll kind of get to all of those here in just a little bit. So as we move forward, now we're going to move on from Mike just talking about his business to talking about overarching, growing your guys' revenue and close rates in 2022 and beyond. So a lot of the data you're going to see in this was co-produced by us in partnership with a company called ResearchScape. We surveyed thousands of homeowners that allowed them to tell us how they choose contractors or home service professionals and what they would like to see changed in the industry. So a lot of this data is all from real homeowners. You can get the entire report at any time just by going to arcsite.com/report, and it will allow you to download the entire thing. So all of the data, it's totally free. We don't charge anything for it or anything goofy like that. But yeah, any of the data you see today is going to come from real homeowners surveyed here this year. So late last year, I should say, is when we compiled the survey, but a lot of the data that holds true today, clearly. So the most important factors that people consider when selecting a pro, there's, a few main ones. Price is clearly number one, still is. They want to know that the value, I won't say just price, but price/value is probably a better way to answer that. They want to know that they're getting a fair deal and the right price for the service being provided. Word of mouth and referrals is a huge one. Like Mike said, people will refer people to him all the time if they want things done right. How you present to your customer matters. References, the level of trust that they have in you or your company. We talked a little bit earlier, very briefly, about how sales has a massive trust problem as is. Doing all the things well above it when it comes to online reviews, references, portfolio, brand, all of that will help with the trust. Online reviews, I don't need to preach to anybody on this call about how important Google is to allow people to really research a company or figure out what's important in your area by winning those Google result wars that everybody probably engages in. Time estimated to complete is important. They don't want to wait for services. They want to make sure that they're done in a timely manner, especially if it's related to pest. Brands and materials, how your company carries itself or presents itself, shiny wrapped trucks versus old, beat up SUVs like Mike started with, there's a very difference of opinion there when you pull up with something like that. And then portfolio of existing work. What are you doing to take your current work examples and really share those with the masses and use them in an effective way to be able to grow your business and increase that trust with your company. So when you go out, you're already the front runner and you just have to close it down and win that business. So we're going to talk about the ones in orange mostly, because those are the ones we feel we can key in on the most during this call and help you guys really kind of iron out a process to do that. So when researching professionals, 38% of people rely on referrals, 31% on reviews, 21% on work examples, and then just 7%, although it is a good chunk, 1 out of every 12 or so, 14 or so, rely on just your online presence. They want to figure out everything about your company by going with that. If you don't have a referral program in place for your company, or you don't have a methodology or a strategy around collecting reviews from your customers in a public way, whether that be Google or different Facebook business sites or whatever you prioritize, I would recommend Google. That's definitely the big one. Focus on getting those. Figure out a way to get customers to want to give you those reviews. Now, companies like Mike who do exemplary work, they don't really have as many issues getting as many people to want to refer them customers. But depending on your area and depending on your demographics, it may be more important to focus on that online review portion because you're going to hit more people that way. We're going to come up to a couple stats in just a few minutes here. But then also the third one, a lot of people don't think about this. How many of you guys listening, total rhetorical question, actually have work examples on your website, like real work examples, not Shutterstock photos or basic photos of pest control tech standing in a yard or in a house, real before and after type stuff, work examples so people know kind of the work that you do. Figuring out a way to showcase that is important because people want to see it. They want to know what the end product is going to be for the service that you're providing. Now, where do people go online to research? About 2/3 of everybody goes to search engines. And then Google owns over 90% of all search engine traffic. So like I said before, definitely extremely important to focus on the Google reviews, focus on the Google My Business page, make sure your SEO efforts and everything are in line to make sure that when people are looking for you, especially for the customers and demographics and areas that you want to win the business, you guys probably all have areas where that are specific, have had better results for you in the past. You want to make sure that you are really keying in there and having a strategy around it. Home Advisor is still a big one. About 1/3 of people in this, if you realize that all these percentages equal way more than 100, that's because people research multiple avenues. It's not just like of all the traffic. So about 1/3 of people still go to Home Advisor or Angie to make sure that they're figuring out people. Those do allow you ways to get in front of your customers by advertising or paying, everything from pay-per-click to just straight ads through companies like that. The Better Business Bureau, over 1/4 of people look at that. Same thing with Facebook. They go to your business website about 1/4 of the time. Yelp's a little bit lower. Just kind of allows you to know where to spend your resources to grow your business. So if you don't get to the house to start, all the stuff that Mike talked to you guys about, all of the changes to the processes, all of the salesmanship never gets a chance to even work or be effective if you never get out there in the first place. So make sure that you're really spending your time figuring out how to get your company where you want to get it. It's definitely going to be a huge piece to the puzzle, definitely a corner piece that's going to allow you to kind of build everything else around it. So first official tip of the 3, reputation is everything. So ensure you and your team are as professional as possible. Standardize your sales presentation. What do I mean by that? I mean, make sure that every customer gets the same experience as the last. If you're leaving things to chance and you're just expecting every sales pro to act like you act, so Mike closes at 90%, right? Team closes at 70. I bet you most people on the call would be thrilled with 70, but yet Mike has a standardized process that everybody follows. Everybody does the same thing. Everybody models after Mike. So he has a standardized process that allows his team to be successful. It's cut and dry. In this world nowadays, hiring people is not easy. I guarantee pretty much everyone on here has struggled at one point or another to find and attract good talent. So having a standardized process that's easily repeatable, easily trainable, and not high friction allows you guys to overcome that while still producing the same quality result and keeping your reputation very, very strong. Incent referrals and reviews. Talked about this a little bit ago. Figure out a way to, and it doesn't even have to be monetarily. It can be anything. Just figure out a way to really make your customer want to give you a review. Ask for it. Like, be, not ashamed to just say, hey, do you mind? We did really good work here today. We're really proud of the stuff that we did. We hope you're just as happy with it as we are. Would you mind jumping on Google real quick and giving us a review? It would really help me out. And say me, make it personal, sales 101, every sort of emotional connection you made with that customer. If you've done your job right, they will be happy to go on and say, hey, Mike came out to my house. He was super clear in everything. He did all the work as presented and as promised, and we ended up with a great result, and our home is termite free. Those sort of results are the really ones you're really, really digging for. And then ensure your online presence is optimized. So what do I mean by that? When people search on Google for something like termite prevention or something, and they go to your page or go to your website and you don't have a dedicated page for termites, or you don't have work examples, or they have to dig through 5 different links to find the information they're looking for, they're going to go back and click on the second result. So you want to make sure that whatever you're keying in on, that there's a page for that. So if you really focus on termite control, have a termite control page. If you focus on bed bugs, have a bed bug page. Have specific stuff that they can get to easily, and then have a way to capture that data. Have a lead capture form. And most importantly, with lead capture forms, make sure there's aftercare to them. The worst thing from a consumer is to submit information saying that I want to get a pest control quote, and then not hearing from anybody for 10 days. That is miserable. And it's the state of the world. So many people will capture all that data, but not have an efficient process to process it. So that all goes into keeping your reputation strong and them understanding that you as a business have your act together and are a top tier company, and they'll want to work with you from things like that. You guys have all been to websites that are very subpar compared to other nice and shiny ones. Definitely a different feel when you kind of are expecting what that company is going to provide when they come out. So second poll question, if you guys don't mind, what percentage of homeowners would prefer to receive a digital quote over a handwritten quote? What percent do you guys think it is that people are wanting digital nowadays? Mike talked about going digital, all paperless, all that sort of stuff. But how much is that in line with what customers are really asking for? So if you guys don't mind just choosing that one here a second. And then we'll reveal the answer in just a moment. But yeah, it's one of those pieces to the puzzle that you want to meet your customer where they want to be met. And if they're asking for something, you want to be able to provide it the way that they want it. It's just less friction. It's less having to win them over. It's more comfortable for them. 75% of homeowners prefer a digital quote over a handwritten quote. Text message continues to grow. Looks like most of you said 80%, just a touch high. There's still a chunk of people that prefer handwritten. Just like there's always going to be. You're never going to win 100% of people with the same strategy, but you definitely want to be in the bigger piece of the pie. You don't want to be in the small piece of the pie. So you're still going to have people who are like, I like handwritten because it shows that the guy has been doing it for a long time. We'll hear things like that, or the things like that have been said in the survey. But at the end of the day, 3/4 of everybody, 3 out of 4 houses you walk into are going to want it the other way. So make sure that you're definitely setting yourself up for success there. And there's a lot of different ways that can be delivered. It can be on a tablet on site like Mike does. It can be a text message. It can be typed or printed. It can be displayed on a smartphone, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different kind of strategies there. Emailing a quote to them obviously is still fine and probably the most expected, I would say. Most people are expecting the email is probably the most common. Tip 2, digitize your process. Follow in Mike's footsteps. Mike has seen wildly great success digitizing everything. So produce and deliver estimates digitally. Don't produce them on paper and go back and scribble everything out and have a graph that they can't read because they can't tell what you tried to write down. I have absolutely terrible handwriting. I don't know about everyone listening, but I have very bad handwriting. One of my coworkers' biggest pet peeves is really bad handwriting, so she can't know that, so don't tell her. But I have terrible handwriting. So when you are able to do things digitally, it takes away all of the non-professional stuff that could accidentally slip through the cracks, because it's always going to look good, long as you have a system in place for it. So deliver quotes as quickly as possible. People expect their estimates same day or next day. If you're doing 3 to 5 day type turnaround quotes nowadays, it's no longer acceptable to the general populace. I understand that business is business and you guys are busy and there's a lot to do, but it should be a priority for you guys to figure out how to turn around stuff. If you can't do it on site, which there are tools that allow you to do it on site nowadays, then at least try to get it out same day or next day and deliver it to them how they want it delivered. You can just ask them, how do you prefer to receive your quote? Text message? Great. Send it via text that way. And use your quote as a presentation and sales tool, not a leave behind. Mike does a very good job during my conversations with him of using everything he builds during the inspection process as a catalyst to build off. So he goes through and he explains all of the different stuff, and they leave so much more educated than they were before because he presents it. He doesn't say, hey, based on the work you need to get rid of all this, it's going to be XYZ and it's going to be $2,200. He says, hey, based on this here's the penetration, here's exactly how we're going to treat it. And he takes them around using the graph and the quote and shows them everything that needs to be done and why and how. So they're very confident that it's going to be addressed 100% of the way. And you guys can do it too. A lot of people just give them a quote, leave it or send it out and wait to hear back from them. You need a follow-up process for your quotes anyways. When you're presenting them, when you're side by side, gives you a better chance to never lose control of that sale. So evaluating pros, most homeowners solicit 3 or more bids before selecting a service provider. We talked about this just briefly a moment ago. The biggest number is 3. 3 is the most common, 2 followed by that. Only 3% get 5 or more bids, which would probably drive you guys bananas if your customers were all getting 5 bids. But you have to know that 95% of people are going to get more than 1. So that's definitely something to know to how do you present and how do you compete and how do you make sure that quote and presentation is a silent salesperson once you leave the house. You may be first, you may be second, you may be third. If you go first and you do a lot of the tips that Mike is saying today and you present those out professionally to everybody and you really win that customer's trust, those other companies are going to fail in comparison to you. They're not going to look good. They're going to be like, oh man, compared to the first guy, this is no good. So when it comes in really cheap, they're going to be like, yeah, that's why it's really cheap. They're no longer going to be like, oh, cool, $600. I feel good about that. And then Mike comes in at 3,000 and they're like, oh. So if you go first, second, or third, it's still all about presentation and professionalism. Then order does not matter if you are clearly that much better than your competition. So the tip 3 is stand out. So how do you do that? It's easy to say, hard to do. So Mike talked about this a lot. Build trust with your customers by educating them. It's big. They need to understand the whys behind things. We live in the information age. Every single person is going to Google their problems after you leave and figure out if they can self-treat or what the different options are, or if they're getting a fair deal. Everybody does that. That's just how it works. So if you educate them on everything that they're going to find, your credibility will go through the roof. So create custom proposals that set you apart. So there's a lot of differing ways to do this. Best way is to have something unique that is different, and different in a good way, not different in a bad way. Some people's are hard to read and that's different, but Mike presents his very digitally, very clear. And then it's an incredibly different experience for a client to read through those forms and those drawings and see the photos and whatever it may be that he took on site to present to a client. And then he stands out because of that. He said earlier, and I think it's pretty close to verbatim, that you don't want to do things that everybody else is doing. You want to do things different because standing out is a huge factor, a big competitive differentiator. When you're able to leave a custom proposal with solutions, professional drawings, photos, every time a rep goes out, that comes back to kind of tying tip 2 and 3 together. It allows you guys to really focus on creating that repeatable process. So it's a very predictable experience for a customer. You guys don't want your sales reps all doing something completely different and you wondering why one's closing at 70% and one's closing at 30, because that's a huge gap, obviously. So, and then color code important information. So Mike talked about how he color codes his in red. Red is bad. Red's a conducive condition. I mean, us as humans are built to understand that red is a scary color. We don't like it, especially if it's on our house, because it usually means there's a danger or something like that. So now I think it's important for you guys to know who I am as well and why I'm the one talking today. I work for ArcSite. ArcSite is a drawing tool that serves the pest control industry and the tool Mike uses. We learned a lot about pest control from talking to Mike originally, because we didn't build our software originally to be a pest control only software. That was never our plan. It just kind of fell in there and ended up working immensely well. So we spend a lot of time with focus groups, surveying customers, current, past, prospective, all of the above, to figure out how to tailor our tool and make it as perfect as possible for the industries that we're in. So what it allows you to do is create professional pest diagrams or graphs, depending on what you call them, directly on the job site. So a quote from one of our inspectors is they say 50% of the time that it took to do a site survey is the old paper way. Mike, what is your stat? How much time did you save when you switched? Do you know?
Well, like I say, probably 30, 45 minutes.
Okay, and that's per job?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot of hours in a year. And what you see, that little scroll, the little wiper, is an actual before and after of the exact same drawing. I mean, it's literally the same house, the same dimensions, the same everything. That's hard to read. I don't know what I'm looking at. As a customer on this, it's very clear what I'm looking at. And that's just a basic diagram, nothing crazy, easy to do. You can do it in 3 minutes. I mean, it does not take long to do something like that with the proper tools. It automatically will generate proposals based off of what you drew. So we got a quote here from SureGuard. Brandon was happy to share it with us. They closed a 90,000 deal the other day and they can say it was 100% ArcSite. I don't know how he can say it's 100% ArcSite, but he seems to think so. So we're happy to use this quote. But the beauty of it is when you draw, it automatically calculates your bill of materials, your chemicals, your takeoffs, and creates a signable sales proposal immediately on site. So you're able to present without having to go back and calculate anything. So take that 3-step process of draw a graph by hand, go back and calculate how you're going to do everything, look up your products, put all that into a proposal, send that to a customer digitally. You can do all of that in one step. So that is really what we focus the tool on. And so, like I said, it creates highly accurate and detailed material list. As you're dropping things in or drawing things in, it calculates everything from volumes to square footages to linear foot to single items. So as Mike's dropping in a bait station, it'll quantify, and then he can drop down from the bait station and choose what sort of bait he's using, and it'll quantify that, and it'll turn it all into a signable sales proposal. Now, it also allows you to submit your digital drawings directly to states, municipalities, whatever it may be. You can export these, put them into whether you're using an NPM 833 form or a more like local specific municipality form that they require. It allows you to do that with simple taps instead of having to scan or take pictures or upload or turn it into a PDF and draw over top of that. I mean, I've seen some really wild processes out there. It allows you to simply and easily do that all in one step. Improves communication with clients and installers. We've talked about a huge theme today being communication and making sure that your customer knows everything you know, not everything, but enough. And then it goes with you everywhere. It's mobile first, works on tablets, phones, etc. So allows you guys to kind of capture all of that data and do it as you're going. So it's not something that's going to be a cumbersome process is really what we're after. Lots of reviews, lots of customers. That sort of speaks for itself. And then we set up a specific thing for the PCT. If you just go to arcsite.com/PCT, you can try it for free. You can request a personalized demo. You can do any of the above. We want you guys to explore it the way you want to explore it, and let us know how we can help there. So that's kind of just the quick who I am, who we are, why we're the ones talking today, because you may be like, who's ArcSite the whole time? But it was a lot to do with just kind of us in the industry and kind of helping to solve some of the problems that hopefully hopefully solve some of the problems that some of you are surely facing today. Now from here, I think, Jackie, you're going to come back and do the Q&A, right? You're going to queue us up and then me or Mike will answer whatever one you guys asked and see who's better fit to answer it.
That's right. Yeah, we have several questions coming in to our attendees. If you wanted to ask those, you can go ahead and type those into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. The first question's for Mike. Are you graphing a home for general pest control inspections and proposals as well, such as ant, mouse, roach work, etc.?
Yes, I mean, you can use it anything you want to use it for. It's just endless. So if you want to use it just for pest control, you can use it for pest control. You can use it for both. That's what's so good about it. And one thing I was thinking about as he was talking, I love the drop and drag feature. When you have duplicates on a drawing, you're able to click and drag it around the graph. Therefore, you don't have to write it in or draw it in every time. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, what he's referring to is we have reusable shape and product libraries built in specific to pest control. So he chose to use an image of his bait station. We have circles, squares, everything that will automatically quantify as a bait station, and then tally those up on the report. So when you do that, yeah, you can simply tap. You don't have to draw out a square and type letters in it. You can just simply reuse the stuff we've already got built into the application to be super, super quick. And yeah, a lot of the folks we talk to are using it for everything. It's one of those things where, yes, termites is the required, usually the catalyst of people coming to us in the first place. But once they find that it's so quick and easy, they prefer the sales presentation of the other services in it. And if they're already using it for one, they end up using it for everything pretty much all the time.
Does it have the capability of automatically calculating linear and or square footage?
Yes, it does. Yep. So when you draw things out in ArcSite, we have multitude of measuring tools. It can capture everything from volumes to areas to lines to angles. It even has angle measuring ability within it. So whether you're working off of, say you're doing a commercial job and you're given a PDF and you want to mark out certain areas or measure that PDF, you can absolutely accomplish that. If you're drawing from scratch in a residential home and you draw out, you measure it out, you draw out your space, it'll automatically tell you the square footage of things. If you're running something like an encapsulation or a fumigation, depending on which area of the country you're in, it'll tell you how much, not only how much chemical it is, but how much cubic feet you're actually servicing. All that sort of stuff is built into the application. Absolutely.
Can I add something to that, please?
Yeah.
As you're drawing the line, it gives you the measurement as you're going across. And you can also go in and in settings and make each square whatever size you want to make it. Like we make our squares 10 by 10. So as you're dragging the bar across, it lets you know, hey, you're going 5, 10, 15, 20 feet, and then you stop. Another cool thing about that is, let's just say you went 27 feet, you meant to go 20 feet. You click on the line, it brings up a menu to where you can just type in 20 feet and makes that line 20 feet. That's really awesome.
Yep. It'll auto scale everything and everything will always be to scale within ArcSite.
Yep.
Cool. So what's the learning curve for someone who is used to just using pen and paper? How long does it take to learn ArcSite?
I'll let Mike take this one. Mike, how long did it take you to learn it, you'd say?
I am not computer literate at all. And I learned it really quickly. I was amazed how quick I learned it. I would say probably taught myself within a matter of 2 hours or less. So it was really quick. And that's somebody did. Now I can turn the computer on, that's about it. So this was easy.
Yeah. What you guys didn't see prior to the webinar was Mike's microphone acting up. So yeah, now tech stuff is, he doesn't love it. He's really good at using it, but it's not his favorite thing. But yeah, we find that to be very personal answer. Some people pick it up, and if they're used to some sort of architectural drawing in their profession, they can use it immediately. I mean, it's weird to see because they've never touched it before and they figure it out. Other people take a few hours or, longer on the screen. But I mean, when I first started at ArcSite, I've been here about 2 years. I used to learn it simply by just doodling around on it when I was watching shows or movies with the wife at night. And I mean, really 2 hours on the screen, 2-3 hours total is, I would say, what it takes. If you're drawing all straight lines, even less. It's a lot of the curvature stuff and the angles and stuff that can take a little bit more getting used to. If you're drawing all straight lines, you could easily pick it up within an hour or two.
Well, the drawing part was easy. I was just talking about learning how to put all of the objects and draw up the details of it. It took a little longer. But,
oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of customization. We really build every account alongside of each customer. So if you do something totally different than Mike and you want a totally different symbol set or your things are priced differently, that's absolutely doable. We do it with everybody. We have a CS team dedicated to every account. So we make sure your stuff's presented the way you want to present it.
Is there the ability to write out findings and recommendations? This person said some of ours can be a paragraph or too long. So where's the technician recording these within this software?
Yeah, so a couple different, I'll take that one, Mike, if you don't mind. There's a couple different avenues. We have a forms feature built in that you can build out actual forms you want them capturing every single time. Otherwise, we have, if you can kind of see it on the takeoff and estimate on the screen, that additional data tab, we and you or whoever can build out whatever you want captured. They can be paragraphs, they can be date fields, they can be drop-down menus, they can be related to the drawing, they can just be text that are being typed out. If you want that stuff to go on a proposal, off a proposal, just on a crew sheet, but not customer facing, all that sort of stuff is customized within the app. So you can collect anything from visuals, because we do have photo tools and things built into the app too, where you can take real live photos and mark up actual photos to increase communication, all the way to typing out a full paragraph of findings. And we have specific data sets. So you can go out and say, I'm doing a termite job, and that'll make them fill out different questions than if they're going out and doing, carpenter ants or something like that. And then it'll pop up different findings and different fields for each different service that you're providing.
And let me add to that. I actually took a picture of the bait station that I used, transposed it onto here and made it small to where, like I say, it's the actual bait station we're putting on the graph. Nobody's doing that. Nobody can do that. And that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is the software California WDO compliant?
It is. Yep. Yeah. So we have the ability to export, import into a lot of different forms. So we have a few customers in San Diego area, which is one of the more stringent areas I've found and ran across for as far as what the graphing requirements are and as far as how they have to submit those. Now, if your area, a lot of the areas use like an NPM 33 form, certain areas have their own, like I know like Las Vegas and Texas have kind of their own thing. Everybody has their own different way, but we have found a way to really work with any of them because our graphs can export in a bunch of different file formats and things and just be plugged in. So a few of our different customers have really found creative ways to do that. But yeah, we have best practices we're happy to share to help you fit it into whatever process that you're using currently.
And Justin, what would you say makes ArcSite different than other providers in the market?
Yeah, so we kind of worked backwards with it in a lot of the ways. So we tend to take customer feedback very, very seriously. And like I said, we spent a lot of time with Mike and a lot of time with a bunch of other people talking about how they do things. And we've built in a lot of different features in just the short amount of time we've been in pest control. So the thing that makes ArcSite different at this stage is it's fully customized for a bunch of the different workflows, and it's by far the easiest to use. So when you talk about actual CAD formats, these come out in the exact same format as an AutoCAD drawing, DWG, DXF, whatever you want it to be. So it's a high-end professional drawing that auto creates other things. There's not another software that allows you to draw and create as easily as ArcSite does. That auto creates takeoff reports and signable sales proposals that are customized the way ours are. So when we get the question I love and hate at the same time every day, who's your biggest competitor in this space? I can't answer that. I don't know. And I hate answering it with that answer because it sounds like arrogant, but it's not meant to be. I simply don't know of one. So if you guys know of one, let me know. And I'd like to research what they're doing well and figure that out, but I don't. I mean, Mike, what would you say? I mean, you searched for, I think you told me 3 years for software before you found it. Like, what set it apart for you?
I mean, really, I started when I first opened up, and I would just go in every once in a while, about once a month or so, and Google, drawings, graphs, just different ways, and just never found anything. And somehow I found you guys, and it was like the most awesome thing I ever found. It's like what I was looking for from day one, and everything fit in. So I guess you can say where you've been all my life. So that's pretty well what it was.
Yeah. So biggest thing that set us apart is the customization and the easy use. I mean, it really comes down to that. Anybody can use it. The original mission of the program was to democratize CAD drawings to everybody, to the average human being. I'm not an engineer, but not even close. But I can easily make fully scaled professional CAD drawings in minutes. It's very simple.
And is ArcSite available internationally?
It is. Yeah, we've even got a couple of reference customers in pest control and other companies. You'll see logos of pest control companies that are specific to Australia, New Zealand, places like that on our website. Yep, it supports, I think, 9 or 11 languages. But yeah, it's absolutely supported pretty much anywhere that you have an Apple App Store or a Windows Store or something like that.
Okay, great. Well, that's all the time we have for questions today. Thank you so much to Justin and Mike for your presentation and to ArcSite for sponsoring. To our attendees, you will be prompted to answer a quick survey once this ends. So if you could take the time to do that, we would really appreciate it. And thank you for spending your afternoon with us.
Hey, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.